Welcome to an episode of Behind the Scenes, a weekly program unveiling the biggest political developments in Somali politics. I'm Sultan Mohammed, your host and co-producer here on Horford Media, alongside Suleiman Hashi. On this week's program, with only a few days remaining of the 25th of February election deadline, Somalia still seems to be miles away. Now, following talks, a firm deadline was set in January, with all parties, including international partners and Somali political actors, having accepted this deadline. What could failure mean for Somalia's election going forward? And Prime Minister Roble has been tasked to oversee the implementation of yet another agreement. Also on the program, the political situation in Gedo continues to deteriorate, with only a few days remaining of the election deadline, following a statement made by the Federal Election Implementation Team spokesperson, Mr. Safina, in which he outlined plans to bypass Gedo in a predicament where elections could not be held there. With tensions already high between Kismayo and Garbaharre after a statement from the Jubaland Parliament last week, will such developments continue to heighten tensions? These are the topics on the program today. We hope you find this program very informative. Please like, share. For similar content, do subscribe to Horford Media's channel. You can also subscribe to Horford Media's second channel, known as Horford TV, where you can view other programs such as Mahahi Saleh, among others. And also, please do follow myself, Sultan Mohammed, Suleiman Hashi, Engineer Yassine, and the wider Horford Media team on our social media platforms, which should appear on the screen as I speak. Let's get straight into it. While the Somali election has been sluggish for a year now, it seems as though the implementation of the January 9th agreement has picked up the pace. Albeit with only a few days to go, it is clear that the heads of the National Consultative Council are still miles away from reaching their target. As of February 20th, 162 MPs have been elected, with another 113 seats yet to be held. Further updates today and yesterday include the completion of the Somaliland seats, which took place yesterday as the elections of the final 3 seats were held in Mogadishu. Of course, one should not take away the positive completion before the deadline. However, in the circus that we now know as the Somali elections, the meeting of a deadline itself is a major achievement, as federal leaders have failed to reach any of the deadlines they set themselves over the past year. Much like the Somalia elections, the Somaliland elections have been shrouded in controversy, with continuous infighting between factions seeking to control the outcome of the elections. Factions of the Somaliland Election Committee were at loggerheads with allegiances to opposing political actors that have conflicting interests, and this would see these elections halted on multiple occasions. Nevertheless, the completion of the Somaliland election marks the first of the 6 Somali regions to successfully reach the fast approaching deadline. The overall numbers for the viewers I'll explain for Somaliland are as follows. The total seats are 57. The seats for Somaliland in the Somali Senate are 11, and the seats in the House of the People is 46. Now, over in Jubaland, we've seen the election of 5 MPs this afternoon in the transitional capital of Kismayo, and this would make the total number of seats elected in the region a grand total of 20 MPs, with 28 seats still remaining. The biggest dilemma facing the Jubaland elections is the question of Gedo, which has been at the forefront of Somali politics for a number of years now. The strategic region has seen a major political battle unravel, with Villa Somalia and the Gedo regional administration on one side, and a Jubaland leader, President Ahmed Mohamed Islam, and Kenya on the other side. Over the past decade, Gedo has been subjected to numerous war crimes that are yet to be prosecuted. Just last year, we witnessed the indiscriminate bombing of the region by the Kenyan Air Force that saw the destruction of communication lines owned by the private company Hormuz, as well as the civilian properties being destroyed that cost the lives of not just women, but also children. We've seen the indiscriminate illegal deforestation projects that are continuously ongoing not just in Gedo, but the whole of Jubaland in itself. And it is these illegal projects that are the direct results of continued drought in Gedo, which has cost so many lives and livelihoods, particularly those of Somali farmers and animal herders. Now, the elections in Gedo had been at a stalemate up until the 27th of May agreement signed in Mogadishu by the National Consultative Council, and this would have resolved the impasse as following. Number 1, Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Roble would lead the national efforts to reconcile the Gedo region with the Jubaland authorities. Number 2, the setup of a committee composing of all member states, excluding Jubaland, to support the stabilization and unity of Gedo in accordance with the Bay Double Technical Agreement. And number 3, the completion of a universally accepted regional administration of Gedo as part of the wider Jubaland region within 60 days. Now, despite this, the implementation of these proposals were not fully completed, and we are yet to see a wholehearted solution to the impasse. With only a few days to go, it seems as though Jubaland will be unlikely to complete the election in time. Just last week, the Jubaland Parliament and State Election Implementation Team released a joint statement in which they requested for Jubaland President Ahmed Islam to take charge in settling the Gedo impasse. In the statement, the regional parliament's representatives accused the central government in Mogadishu of deploying Nisa and other special forces to instill fear amongst residents, as they put it. Ahmed Islam and his allies have accused on numerous occasions President Farmajo and his team of using government resources to secure seats in Gedo to ensure a re-election, an allegation vigorously denied by President Farmajo himself and his wider team, as well as the Gedo administration led by Ahmed Gedo. Now, despite the Jubaland Parliament making a joint statement, one has to remember that the Parliament can be described at its best as ineffective. The Parliament has met less than 5 times over the past 2 years. The Ahmed Islam's 2019 re-election shrouded in election rigging, and his extension having ended in August 2021, one has to question what Mr. Islam's motives are to seek full control of Gedo at such a vital time, despite an agreement he signed already in place. Now, moving on, many analysts were shocked to hear when, during an interview, the Federal Election Implementation Team spokesperson, Mr. Safina, explained that if Gedo impasse was not to be resolved by the deadline made, it would simply be bypassed and the election of the president would continue. Now, a major problem arises with such a proposition. When we assess Somalia's election framework, one has to realize that the utter uniqueness of the process, a process not replicated anywhere else on the globe. The indirect election taking place in Somalia is based on a deeply unpopular 4.5 system. Now, Somalis did not vote for this system, nor did they choose this framework. However, it has been imposed on the country during a time where infighting and disunity seem endless, a time where Somalia and Somalis were vulnerable. Under this system, every clan and region must be adequately represented in all levels of governance on a federal level, from the Somali lower house, where the election of the president takes place, to the Somali cabinet. Now, if we were to hypothetically bypass Gedo, then there would not be any MPs representing the clans and the people that live in the area of Gedo to participate in the election of their president, which would lead to the disenfranchisement of many in the region. Now, in a scathing response, Gedo Governor Ahmed Gedo condemned spokesman Safina, branding his statement not only constitutional, but also demanded his resignation. The disenfranchisement of Gedo region would undermine the very concept of an election and representation, the very concept that that team of FEIT is representing. Now, lastly, we've seen developments in Hirshabelle region recently, as regional president Ali Goodlawer has been in Beledweyne following a year of impasse with former General Hood, who's currently in Mogadishu, having held talks with President Farmajo to resolve the impasse in the region. Now, images circulated all over Somali media showing former opposition figures within Hiran, such as Colonel Nordere, meeting with the Hirshabelle president, which indicates a shift towards reconciliation. Now, Hiran, much like Gedo, has been a major hindrance to the integration of federal states, the federal system in Somalia, and the election implementation in recent months. Hirshabelle continues to be behind on the election as a result, with only 8 or so MPs elected so far. However, recent announcements indicate a large chunk of MPs are expected to be elected in Beledweyne and Johar in the coming days. Now, in conclusion, with only days to go, it seems unlikely that the Somali election can be concluded by the 25th of February. If the deadline is missed, it is yet another colossal failure by Somali leaders to deliver the demands of the Somali people, which are 2 things: accountability and democracy. The simple fact that Somalia is having yet another indirect election has already disappointed many aspiring Somali politicians, with over 100 political parties registered in 2020 prior to the U-turn decision to return to indirect elections following demands by Puntland and Jubaland. The Somali people yearn for elections and are tired of their leaders' continued false promises. Somalia is in need of an election. the president and governmental terms ended on the 8th of February. Indeed, the legal mandate in which both the president and the government function is Law 30, which enables the existence of a caretaker government until the president is elected. But until how long? How long will Somalia have a caretaker government? A caretaker government cannot do what a government does. It cannot sign treaties. It cannot fulfill many of the tasks it needs. This government cannot get the support, international support it needs, because it's an election impasse. And with time running out, and with already 3 other agreements failing to achieve anything, Somalia seems to be heading into more uncharted and unknown legal as well as political territory.